Hi everyone, welcome to Dick's Sporting Goods and to class number 4 for Marketing Strategy 665. This is our class focused on retail marketing, so thank you for making the trip out here to Washington Square Mall. It is going to be a very different class today, but I hope that you'll enjoy actually being in retail stores and really putting to use the things that I'm talking about directly in a retail environment. So I think it's going to be great. Okay, so again, welcome to Dick's Sporting Goods. You can see here we are outside of one of Dick's Sporting Goods' most important doors. Dick's was founded in the 1940s and they are now one of the largest sporting goods retailers in the world. They have over 600 locations, so they are a giant. They are located in Pittsburgh, so if any of you end up working on this account for one of the brands, you will spend a lot of time in Pittsburgh. I have a whiteboard in lieu of our normal whiteboard in class. I have a whiteboard here that shows you what we're going to cover here for the next probably about an hour. We'll be covering this material. So we'll talk about types of retail, the prioritization of doors, traffic driving versus retail marketing, store brand versus supplier brand, retail marketing zones, and you see 3 letters under that, AEC, that stands for Attract, Engage, Connect. We'll talk about retail marketing elements. We'll actually spend the focus of the talk on this component. We'll also go over merchandising principles as well as fixtures and imagery. So there really is so much that I could talk to you about in the world of retail marketing, but when I thought about what are the biggest things that I want to make sure we cover, this really is it. And you have a handout from me that is kind of a short form of what we're going to cover. It's really some notes for the class, but I would definitely encourage you as you're listening and as you're going through the store and through the mall, take more notes. What you have is really just a framework from me around what you need to know about these topics. And this is a very important class for the midterm, I will tell you that now. This class is very content rich, so I hope you pay attention and I hope you learn a lot. Alright, so how this is going to work is this will pop up every so often, and we're going to spend probably about 15 or 20 minutes, I'm guessing, out here. Courtney's going to ask me questions and kind of guide me through sharing with you the things that I think are most important for you to know. We will then go into the store, probably be in the store for about 30 minutes, so you will walk through the store on the journey of retail with Courtney and I as she asks me questions and asks me to point out different things so that you can actually see them live and in person. You'll then come back outside the store once the recording finishes, or once we get to the end of the journey in the store. You'll come back outside the store and meet with Courtney and myself. We'll talk about the assignment, and you will then spend probably about an hour, maybe an hour and a half in the mall actually doing the assignment with your team. It's quite a large assignment, so it will take some time, so I would encourage you to really pay attention here for the next hour so that you'll have all the information that you need in order to do the assignment. Okay, so Courtney, I think we are ready to dive into our first topic, which is types of retail. There really are a couple main types of retail, and I know you have some questions for me about that.
Yeah, so what's the difference between an owned versus partner door?
So if we're thinking about a brand, let's use Adidas as an example. Adidas has their own store locations. They have, or I should say their own door locations, and I'll explain that to you later. So they have their flagship locations, they have factory stores, they have outlet locations. Essentially an owned door is a door that the brand owns themselves versus a partner door. A partner door would be someone like a Dick's Sporting Goods who they have a partnership with to sell product on behalf of the brand. So that's owned versus partner.
Gotcha. What does a wholesale door mean?
So wholesale door is another way of saying partner door, and that's a door that the brand sells product to at a wholesale price, and then that retailer sells the product direct to the consumer at full retail price.
Okay. Okay. What's the biggest difference between an own door and a partner door as far as the brand is concerned?
There are a lot of differences for the brand in an own door versus a partner door, but the biggest difference is control. If you think about it, in an owned door, the brand has ultimate control over everything that's happening in that space. They hire the employees, they train the employees, they decide on all the fixtures and the location of the fixtures, they decide on the assortment. They own everything that happens in that space, and they really control the entire space and the entire consumer experience in the space. So control really is the biggest difference between an owned door having the most control and a partner door having much less control for the brand.
Okay. Although we're focusing on the U.S., are there any significant retail differences across the world? And if so, can you give us a few examples?
Yeah, this is a great question. Many of you are very familiar with U.S. retail, and those of you who've worked in retail or retail marketing know this pretty well. What I'm about to say pretty well, but it's interesting. Those of you who don't have expertise in this space, you will never look at retail the same again. After today's class, I will tell you that you will notice all the nuances every time you go into a retailer, so that may be a blessing or a curse thanks to this class. Sorry, back to your question though, Courtney. So there are a lot of differences between retail in the US and in other places, and that's something that I learned a lot about in my time at Nike. So I'll give you a couple examples. China is one country that comes to mind that has a pretty different retail landscape to the US, especially in the space of sporting goods retail. So in China, most of the sporting goods retail is what we call mono-brand retail. And what I mean by that is it's one brand versus a multi-brand retail environment like a Dick's Sporting Goods. So in China, for example, Adidas would have what looked like Adidas owned doors all over China, but they're actually owned by partners operating the store as an Adidas space. So that's a very different dynamic that we see in China with retail. Another country that comes to mind where retail can be quite different is Japan. I spent quite a bit of time in Japan when I worked for Nike, and I was focused on running retail when I spent the time in Japan, and it is very different than retail in the U.S. So, for example, the amount of messaging that you would have on a footwear wall, for example, in Japan, would be overwhelming compared to what we would see in the U.S., where footwear walls are typically quite clean. Sometimes they get a little bit cluttered if it's not an organized store environment. But in Japan, you would have, in a small space around a shoe, for example, you could have 5 different signs attached to the shoe, attached to the shelf, attached to the wall. So a much more crowded space. Kind of overwhelming, actually, it was for me. Very competitive if you think about trying to connect with a consumer and actually get your message across when you're competing with so many other messages. So those are a couple countries that come to mind, but I would love to hear from students from other countries after you finish this tour if you find that retail in your home country is quite different than retail here. I'd love to learn from you on that as well. So great question.
Awesome. Can you explain the goal that brands have for global consistency?
Yeah, we talked about this in class a little bit, and the global brands for any sport category have a globally defined target consumer, and they'll put together what we call a seasonal visual center focused on a specific product, and so that will include how the product should be messaged, so what copy you should use to support the product, how it should be presented at retail. It's a directive on how we will be communicating this product this season, and the objective of the global brands is no matter where their target consumer is, if they're in New York, London, Tokyo, wherever it may be, that the consumer gets a consistent message and a consistent view from the brand on that sport category. So that's actually something that's really important that the brands strive towards, and that's why they put together these seasonal visual centers that get rolled out across the world.
Although brands want to be consistent, how does localization of marketing sometimes happen?
Yeah, so what you will see sometimes with these global visual centers is you will see the brands allow for countries to localize the athletes, for example, shown. And typically how that happens is a brand will run a global photo shoot. So for example, Under Armour Running will schedule their global photo shoot, and they will pick a pretty metropolitan location, so maybe San Francisco, Paris, somewhere that definitely feels like a big city, and they will cast that photo shoot with models that represent their major markets. So for example, you'll see, certainly as we move closer to 2020 and the Tokyo Olympics, you'll see brands will be seeking to elevate any Japanese athletes who they have in their roster. So you'll see more of them being showcased in global brand shoots. But for example, if a country is a priority country for a brand, one of their key athletes would be included in the global photo shoot, and so you could end up with a global photo shoot that has, let's say, 5 athletes, typically maybe 2 or 3 from the US, and then maybe you'd have a couple from other countries. So the US and Canada and most countries would pull from the American images, the American athlete images, and then the other countries that got approved for a special athlete to be added to the shoot would use their country specific images, but it would still fit under that global seasonal product directive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. All right, one more for this section. Obviously, we're focusing on physical retail today, but what are a few differences between physical or brick and mortar retail and .com retail?
Yeah, that's a big question. If you think about, here we are sitting outside Dick's Sporting Goods, how would our experience be different if we were sitting on our laptops or using our iPhones and shopping on dicksportinggoods.com? So, a lot of things are different. Probably one of the biggest ones is when we're shopping online, we have no ability to try on the product, right? So that's huge, and you see more and more companies moving towards a free shipping, free returns type model to motivate people who are maybe shy to purchase without trying. So the ability to try on is definitely one big point of difference. The assortment is another huge point of difference. You'll see way more product on the .com site than you will in the store, just for sheer reasons of they can only fit so much product in the store. Service is another often pretty big point of difference. If you think about in a well done retail store, there should be a high level of customer service and training behind how customers are treated when they're in the store. And we've all done plenty of online shopping, and you have these various pop-ups, but it doesn't compare to an actual person. For example, if you're shopping for new basketball shoes and you're talking to an actual person who has played in them or knows a lot about why you would choose one shoe versus another shoe, you're not going to get that same experience on a .com site. And then I think probably the other difference between physical retail and online retail that's worth mentioning is just the consumer experience. There's something about walking a beautiful retail space, and experiencing the images, the messages, the product, and often there is actually something for you to do in the physical retail space. For example, at Running Specialty, and even, I'm not sure if Dick's has it, but many running focused stores will have a treadmill set up, right? So you can actually try on the running shoes and go for a run in them and see how it feels, and you're not going to get that experience, that sort of consumer experience on a .com store. So lots of differences. I think those are probably the big ones. The ability to try on, the level of service, the assortment, and then the consumer experience.
Great, thanks.
Okay, so that was types of retail. That was our first category. Now we will talk about prioritization of doors. What is your first question for me, Courtney?
All right, so first question, what is the difference between a store and a door?
Good question. So I alluded to this earlier when I made a mistake with my language. So a store, Dick's Sporting Goods is a store. You could call it a chain. It is the mothership. A door would be a specific location for Dick's Sporting Goods, for example. So we are at the Washington Square Mall door for Dick's Sporting Goods. Dick's Sporting Goods is one store chain, but they have over 600 door locations. So that is the difference.
Okay. What are the 4 categories that retailers typically bucket their doors into?
This is an important question because much of the experience that you have in the store is decided by the category that the retailer or the brand has bucketed the door into. And let me actually write this out for you. I'm going to get the back of a piece of paper and show this to you. So there are 4 levels. I'll write this out and then show you this. All right. So we start at the top here with the highest level is what we call pinnacle or premium, and that would be this example here that we're going to Dick's Sporting Goods here at Washington Square. So that is really as good as it gets for them at retail. You have the best assortment, you have the most highly trained staff, you have the strongest consumer experience, you have the highest level of upkeep of the store, the nicest fixtures, and all the things that we're going to talk about when we go into the store. You're going to see the highest level of those things at a pinnacle or a premium door. One step down would be what we call a best level door, so just a notch down in almost all of those categories. The 3rd level would be better, and then the 4th level would be good.
So kind of piggybacking onto that question, roughly what percentage of doors fall into each category?
You know, there's no perfect breakdown for this. It would be different for any retailer or brand, but I would ballpark that you would find, I'll show you this in a sec, you would find probably roughly, does that add up to 100? Yes, okay. You'd probably find roughly 10% of doors falling under the pinnacle or premium level. And if you think about the why there, is because those are the most expensive to create. Probably about 20% would fall into best, 30% into better, and 40% into good. And again, I'm being kind of rough here with my estimate, but it's a big deal to open and run a pinnacle or premium door. So you're not gonna have most of them sitting up there, but obviously it is the goal of the brands and the retailers to continue to move, you know, more and more of their doors into these categories. But then there's obviously this balance behind all the things that are a priority for the retailer, which includes their .com experience. So it's a constant struggle over where they invest their money, and we could have a whole class on that.
So looking at the categories, what are some of the retail marketing differences you would see from a pinnacle level to a good level, for example?
Yeah, I think I talked about this for a second there, I alluded to it. So, so if we go from pinnacle to good, pinnacle, you are going to have beautiful fixtures that are very well kept. You are going to have, you know, and good, you're probably going to have more basic fixtures. Often you won't have branded fixtures. It'll just be store fixtures at the good level versus the brands actually investing to put their own fixtures in the space. You know, another difference would be the assortment. So you would have the strongest assortment with the most choice for the consumer at the pinnacle level. You would have a more basic assortment at the good level. Sometimes you wouldn't even have too many of your seasonal heat styles at the good level. Signage, you'd have, seasonally changed out or sometimes monthly changed out signage at the pinnacle level. At the good level, that signage may only be changed out a couple times a year. Service, so at the pinnacle level, someone should come to talk to you pretty quickly when you're looking for help, and they should be well trained. At the good level, you're probably lucky if anyone talks to you before you get to the cash register. Let me think about anything else that might be different. Merchandising, so not only would the assortment be much stronger at the pinnacle level, but the actual presentation of the product and the upkeep of the displays would be much better because you'd have more staff who are more highly trained working on keeping that store and the product looking good, versus at the good level, it would be very common to walk into the store and it would be a mess, and nobody really get to it till maybe the end of the day, or sometimes you can walk into a good level door first thing of the day and when it should look best, and it still looks messy because it hasn't been tidied from the night before. So a lot of differences between pinnacle and good level doors.
Okay, that makes sense. So we learned there aren't many pinnacle doors. So where do they tend to be located when there are some?
Yeah, so pinnacle doors definitely tend to be focused in major markets. So the global brands all have their priority cities, and for the most part, those cities are often very similar. You're going to have New York, Los Angeles, London, Shanghai, Beijing, Tokyo. The list goes on, kind of the typical major markets. But another place where you would find pinnacle doors would be in the home city or even home state of the brand. So for example, if you're here in Portland, you're going to have a much better experience with Nike than you would in some other cities. So kind of two locations that you tend to find pinnacle doors, in major markets and in the hometown of the brand.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that was our second topic, prioritization of doors. Are you staying with me? Grab some water. Those of you watching along, hopefully this is interesting. Okay, so our next category is traffic driving versus retail marketing, and this is a pretty quick one, but I just want to address this. So what can I tell you, Courtney?
Yeah, so just one question. What's the difference between store traffic driving and retail marketing?
Yeah, so if you think about it, all the marketing efforts that you do should ultimately motivate your consumer to, whether you're driving them to .com retail or physical retail, all your marketing efforts, whether it's event marketing, brand marketing efforts, working with athletes, all of those things should be, as you talked about it, traffic driving, store traffic driving. So those efforts should drive them to the .com site or to the store site, versus retail marketing is actually the marketing that happens in the box of the store or in the experience of the site. So we are focused today on retail marketing and in particular on physical brick and mortar store retail marketing.
Cool, that makes sense.
Okay, moving down our list, let's talk about store brand versus supplier brand. I think you have a couple questions for me on that.
Yes, I do. So how do retailers get the highest margin?
So the highest margin definitely comes from when a retailer, like a Dick's Sporting Goods, for example, makes their own product. And I think, Courtney, you found some examples when you were in Dick's earlier of, what did you see? You saw water bottles, what else?
Yeah, water bottles, some like baseball equipment, balls, some knee pads, some scorekeeping books, little things like that.
So they would make the most money when it's their own brand. There's no middleman involved in that. That's really the best way for them to do that.
So in a priority location, what could a supplier brand's investment in a partner door look like?
We are going to see this location here for Dick's Sporting Goods. It almost looks like a Nike store. So when I say that, in answering that question, a supplier brand's investment in a door could look like it's almost, in this instance, it almost looks like a Nike store. The investment is so significant in the amount of space that Nike has in this location, in the level of the fixtures and of the signage, and the level of the product presentation. In this store, for example, the lead person in the Nike space is actually paid for half by the store and half by Nike. So this is an employee of this store, but Nike pays a good chunk of this person's salary. So the investment can be huge in priority locations.
Very interesting. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. So our next topic is retail marketing zones. My water bottle's in the way. This is an important one, and this is going to kind of lead us to our conversation around the elements, because you'll see we'll have different elements in the different zones. So we have 3 zones. We have attract, engage, and connect. And I think we'll talk more about each of those.
Yeah, so actually, can you explain each of these a little more?
Yeah, so attract as a zone would be either outside, kind of outside the actual front of the store, or the front of the store itself. So attract as a zone is intending to get consumers' attention and motivate them to actually enter the store. That's what attract is. And we'll go through some different elements, I think, in a minute about attract. Engage, if you think about it, just the word implies what engage is trying to do. So engage is trying to actually draw you further into the store. So physically engage would be relatively soon as you enter the store. If we're talking about this store, there's a great example actually of engage here. And at engage, you'll get a little bit more information about the product than you would get at attract. Attract would usually just be kind of usually a one-liner about the product, as well as the actual product itself and some imagery. Whereas engage, you usually get a little bit more info about the product that then would draw you into the store further. And then the last zone is connect. So the connect zone is actually, it's 2 things really. It's where you get the most information about the product. So you get not only kind of more lines of messaging, but more detailed messaging, typically about the product performance and its features and benefits. And connect is also where the product is merchandised in terms of the bulk of the stock would be there. So connect is where the brand is trying to actually connect you directly to the product and have information about the product, so that you then say, yes, I want to buy this, and you go and do that. So definitely different than attract and engage.
So with that, how long does marketing at each zone tend to last?
There's, again, kind of like we were talking about percentage of doors at each level, there's no exact formula for this, but attract presentations are typically the most expensive and the most sought after, right? So they don't last as long. So a global brand would usually, with a partner door, have about a month at the attract level. And Chris Murphy from Adidas was talking to us about calendar and scheduling, and how each month you can see what product is featured. And so at an Adidas location, for example, there would typically be a window change out every month, and so that attract presentation would change. At the engage level, engage should connect to attract, so it would change on the same cadence as attract. It should anyway. There would be some exceptions to that. And then connect can live for much longer. And that depends on how detailed the presentation is and if the product changes itself. But connect could live for months and months without seeing any change. And the higher the quality of the door, the sooner you'll see change. But at a good level door, your connect level messaging is probably living for a whole year, for example, in many instances.
Okay. So you kind of touched on this a little earlier, but to get more clarity, how much copy is at each level?
Yeah, so attract would typically be, it's typically one line of copy. Again, it's not perfect, but typically one line of copy. And then engage would usually be 2 lines. Again, I'm generalizing, but or 2 sentences. And then connect would often be, you typically see it in 3, so kind of 3 sentences of features and benefits or performance-related copy at connect.
Okay. And then how expensive is each level to execute?
Attract is the most expensive, right? Because you're dealing with, you're usually with attract, you're trying to create impact and really get someone's attention. So, well done attract presentations are custom presentations. Sometimes they involve multimedia, sometimes they involve, really special fixtures. So those are definitely the most expensive, and then it goes down from there through engage and connect.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah. Let me just, I just want to check my notes and make sure that I gave you enough on each of those things. One other thing I want to talk about that I didn't touch on was, does each product have to have an attract, an engage, and a connect? And the answer is definitely no. So getting an attract presentation for a product is a big deal, right? If you think about there are only so many months in a year, just a brand itself, no matter what category of product is being featured, just a brand having an attract presentation at a partner door is a big deal. So attract presentations are rare, so are engage, and connect. And we'll talk more about this, but all products will have connect level messaging by way of just having a hang tag. A hang tag is a connect element. Let me just double check that there's so much on this topic that I want to make sure we got it all. Hey, one other thing I want to mention before I think you might steer us into the store is I will often get questions about engage and connect, and are they the same thing? How do we tell the difference between engage and connect? The best way to tell the difference is, and I think I mentioned this a minute ago, is connect is going to have the most level of communication about the product, but even the more important distinction to know if it's connect is going to be where the bulk of the product is. And that works for apparel, right? So if you see a presentation and there's a stack of sizes, you're at connect. Footwear, you would be at a footwear wall, and there'd be a sales associate probably there asking you for your size. You're typically not going to choose your size for footwear unless it's open display where you pull, but that's kind of a big way to tell the difference. Where should we go now?
Let's start with, since we're talking about it, the attract elements.
Or maybe before we go into the store, maybe we should do the 3-step journey and show them kind of an example of attract, engage, connect.
Sure,
what do you think?
That sounds good.
So, Courtney, show these guys, if you would, the 2 windows here. There's the Adidas window, and you see their tagline here to create, and then let's show them the Nike window on the other side. So this is the Kyrie 3 Nike basketball window. Lots going on here with this beautiful presentation. So I think we should probably follow this one through the store and show you guys attract, engage, and connect for this, just because I'll talk about this later, but this is a product-focused campaign versus the Adidas example is a brand campaign. So it's going to be much more difficult for us to follow the journey of that campaign through the store. So let's talk about what we see happening here with this attract presentation. So obviously a really strong use of multimedia, very engaging, what we see there. And then the these custom light boxes that they've created for the footwear are beautiful, and just look at the use of light in order to showcase the product. And the other thing that they're doing, which I think is working really well and ties into the video, is they're showing the footwear at different angles. So that's very strong. And then you've got the messaging down there along the bottom, and that's their headline is the Kyrie 3, and then they've tagged it with Nike basketball and the swoosh. So I actually really like this window presentation. I think it's a really strong attract. So let's go through the store and let's find the Engage and let's find the Connect. Okay, so let's come with us, and we're gonna grab our things. And we'll try to be descriptive about where we're going as we enter the store and move around so that you can follow with us. And we'll try to go slowly so that you can actually take note and really just kind of absorb what you're seeing. Okay, so we're going to actually hit the Engage here really quickly. Nike did a nice job here doing this Engage presentation. So they've got mannequins, they've got this kind of riser presentation with this nice sign. The footwear is elevated on a pedestal, and then they've got the sign behind the mannequin. So that's a really nice Engage, and you can see messaging on the table or on the riser sign there specific to the product. And I noticed this earlier actually. This is unique, and Nike has been doing this more and more, where they're putting Connect level messaging at an Engage presentation. So we will probably see that exact same copy for Nike when we get to Connect, and the difference with Connect being is that's where we're going to see more of the actual product. So let's go to the footwear wall and try to find the Connect for the Kyrie 3. So we're just going to make our way through the store and get through this apparel space, and then we're going to end up in the footwear zone, which is kind of at the back on the left. And I think basketball is all the way to the back of the store. There's lots to see. We'll talk more about what you're walking past as we get into some other examples. But let's just stay focused on looking at the Attract, Engage, Connect for the Kyrie 3. Okay, so here we go. Courtney, if you want to pan to the wall there. So here we are with a nice presentation. I think that's probably that same copy. They've obviously added this image, and then you've got the product here on the wall. So this is honestly probably about as good as it gets for showing an integrated Attract, Engage, Connect. Again, like we talked about outside, you're not going to see that a lot in retailers, just because space is such a premium at the window level. So you're often not going to have an Attract or an Engage, but that's a great example of the three-step journey. Okay, so we'll go outside now.
If you're a Star Card member.
So follow us back to where we started outside the store, and I think we're going to talk about some different types of Attract level elements now that we've kind of seen the journey. We're trying to stay a little bit under the radar.
See how well we do. I might look a little weird filming everything. It's okay.
Okay, let's go sit down at a table for a minute, and Courtney, we can talk about some of the elements, and I'll get myself. Someone just took our table. They tried to get me on camera.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk to you about some other examples of attract elements and get specific on what they look like. Dick's Sporting Goods is only going to show us so many things here with these two windows. So I want to show you a window banner, and I noticed one. Let's go over to the Sunglass Hut. So that's kind of directly behind and across from Dick's Sporting Goods, and look here at the Versace banner. So that's a kind of very typical window banner. You can see how it's hanging from the ceiling. Super easy to change out on a monthly basis, not expensive. So you'll see a lot of brands as you walk the mall today. You're going to see a lot of brands doing these window banners. Another example of an attract element is what we call a window cling, and actually the Adidas window at Dick's Sporting Goods is a window cling, and it's called that because it's directly applied to the actual pane of glass, to the actual window. So you know, there's nothing else happening in this window other than that window cling. Another type of attract would be what we call a custom window display, and you know, and I think what we talked about with the Nike basketball example is a really strong custom window display, and you're going to notice that as you walk the mall more, and notice when retailers or when brands are doing things that are a little bit special, a little bit more than just hanging a banner or doing a window cling. You know, these boxes that the shoes are shown in, those were custom made for this presentation. So just try to notice when you see a custom window display. These are quite expensive to do. Mannequins. So mannequins are definitely an attract level element. In a lot of stores you'll see the mannequins in the window. Some stores you'll see mannequins out front. I think we saw some over here at Zoomies, Courtney. So walk with us. If you're facing Dick's Sporting Goods, walk to the right, go past PacSun and past Build-A-Bear, and you'll see Zoomies, and we'll go look at how they're using mannequins at the attract level. I doubt it's going to be done well, but we will. Oh, and actually, yeah, let's stop here at the duck store on the way. So you can see actually a strong volume, or high volume of mannequins here. So, you know, they've got men's, women's, and kids mannequins as their attract elements. And then they've also got a freestanding sign as another attract element that you can see right there. Let's go look at Zoomies just to compare. Those pretzels smell good.
So good. Auntie Anne, you're hungry.
Okay, so here's Zoomies, mannequins in the window. So I just think that's weird. The mannequins have no hands. This window is terrible. Okay. Okay, another type of attract element would be Nike basketball and the use of multimedia. Multimedia is an attract element. So, and actually here's another one, Courtney. Let's stop here at Build-A-Bear Workshop. So what you're seeing there, that multimedia screen, is an attract element. So they're telling you all sorts of stuff, trying to get you into the store. And then obviously that Kyrie example that we saw with Nike basketball is another use of multimedia. Another attract element is a flag. I don't see any flags around here, but you guys will recognize them, and I'm sure you'll see some as you move through the mall. That would be, you know, it's a freestanding flag, kind of a light material that you'll see usually moving a little bit with the breeze. Freestanding banner. I think I saw one at Well, and actually that duck store banner was as freestanding as well. So you'll see a lot of ways that freestanding signs are done. The duck store one was a framed sign. This Starbucks one is more of a banner. It's not framed. You can see it's got the frame on the top, but then it's loose on the bottom. So just notice with, you know, as you walk the mall and you see these different signs, you're going to see a lot of signs and banners outside retailers. So notice ones that you think are more effective than others, and ultimately you're going to make some decisions about your product and how you want it presented. You'll see often another attract element, especially with food retailers like Jamba Juice or Cinnabon, is you'll see people as an attract element. And actually the tea shop here in the mall over by Cheesecake Factory often uses a person as an attract element. Literally every time I walk past there, there's someone with a tray offering me some tea. So they're trying to get you to try their product and come in. So using a person can often be an effective attract element. Okay, so I think what we'll do is, that's kind of a good overview of attract elements and showing you some examples. I'd like to show you some engage elements. So I think we'll go back into Dick's Sporting Goods and look for some different engage elements. So we are going to make our way. Let's go look for some table signs at the engage level. And again, engage doesn't always happen. Engage would give you more information than you would have at attract, but you can have engage without having attract, because again, attract is hard to get because there are only a few opportunities for attract. But I did notice a table sign in the Nike Kids section that would be considered an engage element. So this is actually a really nice, Courtney, get a good shot of what's going on here, this whole feature here for Nike Kids basketball. So this is really strong. They've got this sign, the LeBron 14 Fearless Acceleration sign, and then they've got this table presentation here. And we know that this is engage because we're going to go further into our journey. In this instance, not much further, but we're going to go further into our journey to find, we would find the connect, and that would give you even more information on the product. I want to show you an example as well of a table sign for engage, but at the footwear level. And I saw Columbia has one for their boot presentation. Here it is, actually behind this Under Armour kids stuff. So you can see here, they've got this messaging here introducing the Heavenly Collection designed to keep you warm and dry on all your adventures. So that would be an engage table sign. And we would hopefully get even more information on the product at the connect level, and that would be where we would actually see more product and again hopefully get more information. Okay, another engage element is a wall sign, and I saw a wall sign for an Under Armour in the footwear area. Where are we? Let me see. Here. Well, here we go. Let's look at this one.
How are you guys doing today? Oh, cool. I went to U of L.
You did?
Yeah.
We're teaching our students about retail marketing right
Oh,
now.
cool.
So if we look like we're filming, we are just a little bit.
Cool.
Hi.
That's a store associate. You'll learn about him later.
All right, I want to find you an engage level wall sign. Where's the Under Armour section? Oh, here, right here. It was right in front of us.
Oh.
So this
There we
is
go.
an example of a wall sign in footwear at the engage level. So Under Armour Speedform, Gemini 3, responsive cushioning, constant comfort. When we go to the actual wall, ideally you would get even more messaging, and you'd get the actual product in all the colors. And then engage level multimedia, I couldn't see any of that in the store. But for example, when we were at that, or when we're here, if there was a TV built in, that would be multimedia at the engage level. Or when we were at that kids Nike basketball, that would be engage level multimedia. And then engage level mannequins, we saw that at the front of the store with the Kyrie mannequins right when we walked in. So we don't need to walk back for that. But okay, let's talk more about connect level elements and some examples. So connect level table sign. Nike actually has these all over the place. We can go, let's go over here, Courtney, to this women's presentation. So here they're talking about the Elastica Elevate tank, and they're telling you it's dry fit technology, helps keep you dry and comfortable, ultralight mesh back strap enhances breathability, and loose fit for great mobility. So that's a really nice table sign. Let's look for a Connect, and we know this is Connect because we've got all the tanks right there in all the colors and all the sizes, literally right behind the sign. Okay, and they happen to be on sale right now. Okay, let's look for a Connect level wall sign. Here is one, actually. If we go over to behind us to the Nike Kids space, just behind where we were at that kids basketball engage table. Yeah, that's an example right there. So, you know, we're getting product information on the shirt and the short, and then literally right next to that messaging is the product in all the colors and all the sizes. And then another really important Connect level element that every product has is the hang tag. So this is something for you guys to think about with your products is what information do you want on the hang tags? It's an incredibly important piece of real estate, one that I don't think companies give enough thought to. So think about an environment where there isn't a sales associate, you know, right there to help you. What you put on the hang tag is really, that is what the consumer is going to know about your product, unless they're the type who's going to go online and look for more information on your website. So that's arguably the most important Connect level element. Let's go look in the footwear area at some other Connect level elements. I want to look at some footwear walls. Oh, here we go. This is a great example of a footwear wall Connect level presentation. So look at this Brooks Launch 3. So you've got streamlined uppers, personalized cushioning, responsive feel, and I want you guys paying attention to the type of communication that they're putting at the Connect level, and see how focused it is on features and benefits and the performance of the product. And then you've got all the different colors of the product right next to it. So that's a nice footwear wall element. Okay, let's go back to the front. And you know, similar to the hang tag, you know, the sales associates are a really important. Hi, the sales. Oh, we're okay. I'm.
I can't have any recording in the store. That's why I was asking.
Oh, I teach marketing at the University of Oregon. I'm teaching a class on retail marketing. So I'm just giving my students an overview of something.
We just can't have anything filmed of the store without prior authorization.